Hey, what's happening? So, Liverpool beat Real Madrid, Trent Alexander-Arnold got booed, and every single pundit on the face of planet Earth has had their say on the matter, and some of them are using their platforms to have more than a slightly veiled dig at Liverpool and the Liverpool fans and whatever. So I thought I'd talk about it. Like, one last sort of word on it. Obviously, the game was ages ago. You know, we're coming up on half a year. It's probably even a year since Trent actually decided he wanted to leave the football club. So let's have a little chat around it while the story's still got a little bit of legs in it. And hopefully we can put it to rest until inevitably Liverpool have to play Real Madrid later on in the season. And it just comes back again. Anyway, so I wrote a bit about this on Substack post Real Madrid. So after every game, I've been doing a thing called the morning after and just talking through some of the key sort of thoughts and feelings and talking points of the match and picking my top 3 players. You can read that after every game on majorpublishing.substack.com. I'll link in the description underneath. So I will be taking some of this and saying it in video form rather than in text form that I did earlier on in the week. But I have opinions on the Trent stuff, and I was prepared to kind of let it crack on, really. And then I saw Roy Keane talking about it on the overlap.
I'm not saying you give the kid the thumbs up for leaving, yeah, but why would you go to a match and go, I'm going to boo a lad who's played 260, 270 games? Stats are fantastic.
And aside from the fact that he just couldn't wrap his head around why Trent would get booed, he just kept mentioning how Liverpool see themselves, how Liverpool see themselves as like better or above, and there was a real sneer to his tone.
And again, Liverpool fans for some reason think they're like, oh, what kind of class here? We applaud goalkeepers years ago when they played well. No, Liverpool fans have to have a good look themselves.
That really, really, really pissed me off. Like, no, I'm not going to let this lie. I'm going to talk about it. And I had one of those moments where, I'm sure we all have it in various walks of life, where, you type like a text back to someone or WhatsApp or whatever that young people do, and not, an SMS, and you go, no, and you delete it, and then you type something else, and you go, no, and then you can't quite see the full thing in the line. It's actually like, does this all make sense? And it's hard to read back. I even, you maybe go as far as like typing it into notes. You can paste it back in. That's where I was at this morning. I had 3 or 4 different things that I nearly replied to on the Overlap Instagram account, specifically about Roy Keane. And I was like, no, just leave it, Paul. It's fine. We've got other things to discuss. But no, it's stuck with me. So here we are. I have actually got something else I was going to record today, which I still have to, and I will be releasing probably now tomorrow. Huge, massive, life-changing news. Something very, very exciting I want to share with you guys. But we just get all the hate out of my heart before I move on to happier things. So yeah. Roy Keane was basically saying, yeah, look, I mean, you don't have to be happy about him. You don't have to kind of clap him off, but to boo him. And he goes, he's played 260, 270 times for the club, and look at his stats. I mean, Roy Keane talking about stats all of a sudden is genuinely hilarious. There's a man who I'm certain, like his nostrils flare when people mention XG to him, but fine, whatever. But yeah, he was talking about like he doesn't understand booing. I just want to. The thing that I was most keen to articulate, and I'm not a huge fan of what I'm going to do here in a general sense, because this you culture that developed because of quote retweets on Twitter, I'm not a huge fan of that. But I do find it funny, Roy Keane becoming the moral arbiter of how people should keep their emotions in check, when he quite famously took offence to some comments by a footballer, and then 3.5 years later, when he met him on a football pitch, basically broke his leg in half and ended his career, and then years later wrote in his book that he did it all on purpose. That he should come out and say Liverpool fans should keep their emotions in check is fucking wild, by the way. But then you've got obviously Gary Neville going, oh, it's Real Madrid. And I get, like, Jill Scott's point in it is, I felt a bit sorry for Trent as a person, and I think Ian Wright had a little bit of that, although there was a greater depth of understanding as to why it's a bed that he's made for himself. And this is where the Trent stuff is complicated, because like I I struggle sometimes with people when I'm not super harsh in criticisms. People often mistake it for like, in the worst of times, people go, "Oh, you're a shill for the club," etc., etc., etc. A lot of the times, it's because I see the humanity in things. And it doesn't take much. It's actually just being in the presence of someone humanizes them. They become a real person for you, and so on. Now, I've interviewed Trent a couple of times when we did our Jordan Henderson documentary. He gave up like an hour of his time to obviously to talk about his mate, but also to be part of the documentary. I have a very tangential familial connection. I know some of his extended family, and they're all really nice people. I've spent more time in the company of his brother Tyler. I know some of his aunties and cousins and all that kind of stuff. All brilliant people. So there is a humanising effect to that, and that's something I always have to try and counterbalance. When you It's why I don't feel a deep sense of rage, because I'm aware that he's a real person. I also have the overriding sense of I don't hate Scousers making themselves successful on a global scale. It's a thing. We get kicked into corners a lot. The accent is prohibitive. I know Sky Sports have told Nick Peet, who told me this, like they wouldn't hire people with a Scouse accent to host Sky Sports shows because they just won't. That's like a mission statement for Sky. So that's one little example of it. So there's lots of things that kind of stand in the way of people from this city making a success of themselves. There's lots of stigma that surrounds Scousers. The city's been through a lot of trouble and heartbreak over the years, and politically, where we sit on the spectrum of that as well, means that in certain situations, then we are limited in our opportunities in a variety of different ways. So when Scousers make good for themselves, I feel a genuine sense of pride around that. It's why I also share the opinion that I don't want Everton to be better than Liverpool, but I want Everton to be better than Arsenal and Spurs and Chelsea and Newcastle and all that, because I'd rather success come to the city than to any other city in the country. It's just a personal opinion on it, but that's one of the things that always sort of counterbalances when I'm trying to think through this situation. That being said, the only thing that I find distasteful about the booing is that if there are people who don't want to boo and feel a sense of they want to applaud and recognise the good things that the player did for the club, I don't like that becoming an infighting battle, particularly in the stands. I found it really uncomfortable last season, and look, ultimately it is the inevitable knock-on impact of a decision that Trent Alexander-Arnold, a grown-up, has made. And all of this has come off the back of him, a grown-up, a big boy, capable of making his own life decisions and fully entitled to choose to do whatever he wants to do with the very short time he and all of us have on this earth. Do what he wants. But these things don't exist in a vacuum. They have knock-on impacts, and one of them was, again, a really nasty situation where Liverpool fans are quite angrily shouting at each other in a football match instead of supporting the players on the pitch. And there is this sense of, and where Roy Keane's point comes from, if we do talk about the culture of Liverpool, we talk about how we conduct ourselves, and I mentioned in an article last week talking about singing the support for Arne Slot, really standing behind your man/men in that environment, where other football clubs would be like, we've lost some games, get out of our club, without even thinking about it. We're like, no. let's take a breath. And this whole, you got your education from the cop, is like the thing that people are referring to in that regard, that there is a way that we conduct ourselves that lots of other fan bases do not share. When Liverpool didn't like Roy Hodgson as the manager, and it was clear that he wasn't good enough to be Liverpool manager, we didn't go all in on being horrible and nasty about it. Quite famously, Liverpool fans sang Hodgson for England, which was like, it's part of bigger offences we can really give to people, saying, we don't really like you, we would quite like you to go away, but look, if you can do the smart thing and do that for yourself rather than having to escalate that would be absolutely sound. Anyway, look, swinging it back to the Trent thing, the hypocrisy and I think the lack of understanding from pundits is funny, because again, look, everyone's got a podcast, everyone's got a YouTube channel, me too, several. Here I am. I'm seeing a lot of people who don't have the connection to the football club weighing in on it, and people are entitled to do that, and footballers and ex-footballers will have the perspective of the footballer, and that's a perspective that I don't have, and you know, most Liverpool fans won't have too. But I think when you're trying to effectively judge the actions of fans, then yeah, you're an ex-player, then you are naturally going to side with the footballer, because look, the reality is football careers are short. And I remember saying this last season at the time, that there aren't many great ways to leave a football club on good terms. Generally speaking, you can retire having achieved loads. You can not be good enough to play for that team and move on to a lesser club, and people can remember the good things that you did. There aren't really many beyond that. Now, let's use the example of like Luis Suarez. So Luis Suarez moves to Barcelona. He gave a really good shift for Liverpool. He's a brilliant footballer for us, and we were prepared to give him a bit of a hero's welcome. And then Suarez, in typical Suarez fashion, scores against Liverpool in the Nou Camp, knee slides in front of the Liverpool fans, and we're like, right, no, you can fuck right off. And so when he then comes to Anfield, the chance of fuck off Suarez, as opposed to like, oh, welcome back, Louis, because he made himself a rival. And if you're going to make yourself a rival of Liverpool, then we're going to treat you like a rival. It's as simple as that. You know, if these players go, we don't have to worry about this when you're playing teams that are, every team that Liverpool plays technically stand in their way of success, but there are only a small handful of football clubs who are genuinely in competition for the biggest honours. And this is where my sort of feelings on this come to the forefront. There are only 6 football teams in the last 10 years who have won the Champions League, who've won the European Cup. So when I say Trent, a player who is good enough to live the dream of every Liverpool fan. Every Liverpool fan on planet would give anything to have the talent to be able to play for Liverpool, and beyond that, to be one of the best players for Liverpool, and therefore to be able to have a tangible impact on delivering trophies and success for this great football club that we all love. It's, you know, that is the stuff of dreams. It's so improbable that will happen. So when someone does come around that has that, like, wow, hold them up on a pedestal. But the thing that's hard to balance out is, imagine then having that talent and actually saying, I don't want to use that anymore to benefit the football club. Instead, I'm going to use it to benefit a rival, and in Real Madrid, a European rival. And I know there will be people in the comments, because I've been doing this a long time, will go, Real Madrid and Liverpool are not rivals, European rivals is a stretch, or whatever. Bollocks. Total utter bollocks. And I get saying that if you haven't watched football for the last 10 years, or maybe you've like had a major head injury or something, I don't know. Real Madrid are European rivals of Liverpool. We've played them a lot. We've played them 2 consecutive seasons in the Champions League. We lost 2 Champions League finals to them. Real Madrid literally are the difference between Liverpool having 6 European Cups and 8 European Cups. That's European rivalry. It is what it is. So to say it's not is just totally and utterly factually incorrect. And it goes back to it. There are only 6 teams in the last decade who've won the European Cup. Liverpool are one of them, and Real Madrid are one of them. So just based on that, there are a very small pool of clubs who could reasonably expect to win that trophy, or that Liverpool might meet in the real sort of battle of winning a competition in the semi-finals, quarter semi-finals and finals. And yeah, that is only exacerbated by the fact that we've literally faced them in the final twice and lost twice to them. So what Trent has done is he has opened up a situation whereby, as we've already seen in the week, Liverpool might play Real Madrid again at the business end of that competition, and Trent Alexander-Arnold, a homegrown Liverpool fan who's good enough to play for Liverpool, and bear in mind there are a few out there who are those things but are not that last one, could stop Liverpool from winning trophies. And that is, as a fan, is very, very difficult to wrap your head around, understandably so, because he had the ability to live the dream of every Liverpool fan across the globe, and he has made the decision. It is a decision he is entitled to make as a human being, but he has chosen to use that talent not just elsewhere, but theoretically in opposition of the goals and happiness of Liverpool Football Club and Liverpool fans. So, yeah. Does that mean he should be getting booed? Does that mean we should overlook the good things that he's done in the past? Honestly, I don't know. I booed every touch of Real Madrid, but I didn't expressly single out Trent for boos. I didn't boo him when he was warming up, when his name was read out. I didn't boo when he came on, but I booed Valverde when the ball was passed to him. So I couldn't even tell you how I exactly want to do a moment to moment. It is a live thing. You just react in football stadiums, don't you? Presumably, I would have just carried on the booing and jeering and boo and boo and all that kind of stuff that comes with playing a big team at Anfield under the lights. But yeah, it's as long as it stays pantomime, I'm fine with it. If it goes super nasty, and I think the murals thing, graffiti and the mural thing was in danger of crossing over to that. The problem with it is it's a target. Should we be giving murals to 18-year-old lads in the first instance? Probably not. But whatever, it is what it is. It was always going to be there. Now, I also happen to know that those murals have been coated with anti-graffiti things, so it was never going to be a permanent thing ever. It wasn't going to permanently damage the mural, so it was always going to be a shortly run thing. But yeah, it can get nasty, these things. I hope it doesn't get truly and genuinely nasty. And I think it could be something that benefits Liverpool, that like the booing and the noise around it. We saw it when, funnily enough, Trent got into a little bit of a battle with Granit Xhaka in the Arsenal game in years gone by. Arteta, you did things to wind the crowd up, and it really, really fired Liverpool crowd up. Every time Raheem Sterling came onto the pitch for Man City against us, the noise would go up a level. So there's a world where it could be a beneficial thing to Liverpool, but look, I agree with what Roy Keane says. I don't think we should be happy about sending a guy over to a rival, because he's technically weakening your side and he's technically strengthening a team that are trying to stop you from achieving your goals. So bad. And Trent has chosen to do that. That is his decision to make, and this is the reality of making that decision. And of course, there is ultimately the fact that that's not a transfer that was agreed out of the blue. This is not like Liverpool get a phone call in July and Real Madrid want him, and they go, we're going to have to accept that bid because that's too much. That is, a premeditated, long-term premeditated decision. My annoyance falls on Real Madrid more than Trent. So I used to quite like Real Madrid, to be honest, just in terms of they were good on Pro Evo and they were good on Champ Manager. The kits were really nice. And if, when Liverpool were in the Champions League every season, they used to beat Man United as well, which was great. They were fine, vicarious football to enjoy, where these Zinedine Zidane, I've literally got a picture of Zinedine Zidane behind me because he was my favourite non-Liverpool footballer. That's him winning the Champions League against Bayer Leverkusen, one of those things. But now I've been to 2 European Cup finals and watched them pricks beat us. So yeah, fuck Real Madrid. But look, yeah, Trent's just a human being and he's a footballer and he's got a short career. But people can boo him or not boo him ultimately. But I don't like the idea of people saying Liverpool fans shouldn't boo him or can't boo him. A lot of people feel betrayed by what he did. And, if you think that's too much, then maybe we should consider that all of football is too much, and we do take all of football too seriously. That I can agree with. But if the conceit is that football's the most important thing, and it's do or die, and it's us against them, and it's heroes and villains, then he's going to get booed, because that's how people are trained to support football, right? Anyway, what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comment section underneath. If you do want to read that Substack post as well, you can do. And I say after every single game, it is free to subscribe to the Substack. There is a paid offering as well. I'm going to explain, hopefully in the next video on the channel, what that's for or what it's being used for recently, amongst other things. So yeah, please do stay tuned for that. The next video I do is not going to be particularly football related. It is very deeply personal. So I hope when you see that, you will just check it out. That would be nice if you could do that. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff.